Alice in Borderland Season 3 was recently released, and as a huge fan of Seasons 1 and 2, I've been eagerly waiting for the new seasons. Although, being a bit familiar with how the manga goes and what was already changed in Seasons 1 and 2, I knew that what we are going for is going to be a completely different vibe than what we had in the first two seasons that I loved. Main reason for the vibe and everything else being different is that the Season 3 is a completely new right now, and they have no source material whatsoever. There is an additional sequel series for the manga that was released a couple years after the original one ended, but instead of adapting that would be maybe well written and actually interesting, they chose to make up some complete bullshit on the stick that doesn't make any sense if you think about it for a few seconds. We had to wait almost 3 years for this season to release, and I'd say longer you wait for the sequel on the continuation, the more your expectations grow, because if they are taking so much time, that means they are cooking something special, right? So when Season 3 was announced, I already knew that we are not going to see the characters that we love outside of Arisu and Usagi. And the problem is that both main characters that we get from the show, well, they are not the ones that carried the show. Because, you see, people love Alice in Borderland for two things. First one is the world of Borderlands, and the second one is the secondary characters that were supporting characters. And I am yet to meet one person who is going to say that their absolute favorite character in Alice in Borderland was Arisu or Usagi. And the show already suffers from the fact that the most interesting characters like Shichiya, Kuina or Aguni are not present in the show. I mean, they make like 10 or 15-second appearances, but that is the entire extent that you are going to see them in this season of the show. They are not part of the games, they are not part of the show. Each one of them is basically appearing for like 10 seconds, and that is it. Just straight up fan service. So Anne is the part of the show, however, she is also not present in it for a long period of time, and for a small amount of time that she is present, she just serves as a vehicle for Arisu to get into the Borderland. And as the show goes, from the start you start noticing that something is missing. The original two seasons are full of life, there's plenty of characters in there, there is a lot of action, the show feels alive and fun. Season 3 lacks almost everything that made Seasons 1 and 2 great. And this kinda goes hand in hand with the change of the construction of the show. As you may remember, the Season 2 ended with all of the surviving heroes getting back to real world, and the last frame was the Joker card left alone on the table, which was already a deviation from the source material, because in the source material, in the manga, Joker is not the enemy for the players to defeat or anything like that. In fact, the manga presents Joker at the end of the original run, and it serves like he is just a ferryman that takes souls to the Borderland, and if they survive, he takes them back to the real world. So he is not a card that you are going to defeat. And the sequel series that was released a couple years later also doesn't deal with the Joker, because Joker is just a ferryman. And Season 3 starts few years after the ending of Season 2. Arisu and Usagi are married, but they still live apart, kinda weird if you ask me. But they are being questioned about the disaster that caused their hearts to stop, and the professor, who is like obsessed with researching death and specifically questions them about Borderland, so that they cannot remember, but he wants to steer them into the direction of getting those memories back and telling him all about it, because he's so obsessed with death, and he wants to find the world of death that is beyond the Borderland. So the first episode of the show is really slow and focuses in its entirety on the real world. We watch Arisu, Usagi, and the research guy whose name is Ryuji, and the whole premise is that Ryuji, being obsessed with death, he takes Usagi to the Borderland with him because Usagi starts to get the flashbacks, memories back, and Ryuji offers that they are going to take the drug that stops the heart, and they are getting to the Borderland. And taking under consideration the entire arc for Usagi as she was in Borderland, and and also her reaction in this season for getting the memories back from the Borderlands. The fact that she's going willingly of her own volition back to this place, it's just so stupid and makes no goddamn sense. They use the fact that she misses her dad, and even if she's dreaming and it's a nightmare, she feels closer to her dad, so she is kind of going to the Borderlands, that she's going to be dreaming, and that is going to make her feel closer to the dad. It all makes no sense. It just like a flip of a switch of a character that you would genuinely just erase entire like character arc that she had in Borderlands in the first 2 seasons and what she went through. It makes no sense. Arisu finds out that she is in the Borderland and she is pregnant. So he, with the help of Anne, takes the drug that stops the heart for like 2 minutes, and he gets back to the Borderland to save his wife and his unborn child. So he is also visited by Banda before he goes, who was present with him in the games, but he chose to take the citizenship. And he basically goes around and hands the Joker card to the people that serve kind of like invitations back to the Borderlands. And this kind of strangely seems like someone took heavy inspiration from the Squid Game. And he also is seen in the real world by them. So it is already a huge deviation from the source material. I already had a bad feeling about this. At the end of the first episode, Arisu joins to the first game, and the whole hour is sacrificed on this one big long setup in the real world. The second episode starts off the bat in the game, and it's a game when the people take the straw with the number, and as they get the number, they get the riddle from the drawer that is attached to this number, and they are supposed to answer the riddles, and seemingly everyone is going to answer the riddle, the game is over, and the answer for the questions is always a number. So if you choose the wrong number, the difference will be the amount of arrows, flaming arrows, sent your way. So concept may be interesting, although the first game of the season, and it completely fails off. There are simple questions like presenting all of the participants like a complete idiots, because for an example there's a question, what number is attached to letter L in Roman numbers, and they don't know that it is 50 for an example, and they get sent a lot of arrows that kill a lot of participants. Also, there are idiotic questions like for an example, if they are transporting 50 animals, what number is going to be the lion, and because lion upside down is 17, that is correct answer, and even they don't know it, so nobody knows it and nobody understood it. So, and also to note that the riddle refers to the English lion, not Japanese lion, so it's even doubly confusing. Like these types of questions, and the funny thing is that you don't feel the tension watching it, you don't care about anyone, and you know that Arisu is going to survive from the start, so you don't really like care. But at the same time, these games in this season also start feeling off from the first game, because the flaming arrows are being sent just randomly. So the people who answered the question wrong usually survive, and other bystanders that didn't even get to their question yet, they die, and miraculously at the end of the game, all of the ones that survived, with an exception of maybe one person, are the people who actually answered question badly. And with a happy coincidence, the whole game was not really about the questions, because it was about the riddles that show you the safe place, because Arisu in his question is wrong about 100 millions. That means 100 millions of flaming arrows. But surprisingly, enough of all people who had riddles that direct you to the safe place. So with all of the people who just answered the question, they managed to find the loose plate that lifts up and jump into the sewers as the 100 million arrows are hitting the ground, and the game clear is in the sewers. So that means the whole idea of the game was not even answering the questions, and nobody presented them that they can find any door or have to find any door. Everyone just thought that they are going to answer the questions and this is going to be over, and probably maybe it wouldn't. So it is completely weird. It is like not fair, because people are dying who didn't even get to be asked the question. So already from the beginning we get these people who survived this game and we stick with them. At least it ties to, at least on the side of Arisu. And from this game we already have the information, go this many kilometers to the second game. So there is no world. There is no presence of the world of Alice in Borderland that you liked from the first 2 seasons, because you don't really spend time in the world. You spend time in games, and sometimes you're going like a 2 or 3 like quick flashes as they go to the next game, and that is it. Or maybe they camp. That is it. There is no presence of the world that you love. They are just going from the point A to point B, and it doesn't really feel like Alice in Borderland. It feels more like Squid Game without the sleeping hole and being in Japanese instead of Korean. So the people you meet in this first game are with Arisu from the start almost to the finish. None of them have any personality, no one has any like character arc or anything, almost none of them, because maybe there is one guy that actually has some personality and some demons. His name is Tetsu, and he is like a really hard drug addict, and that is it. He's a really huge junkie and he tries to fight it but he can't. So in the next game you meet new personality-less people that one of them may seem like she's intriguing and her name is Ray, to quickly realize that Ray is also like a one-act character that only was made for this one game, and she doesn't really have anything else to offer. So the game is about playing cards, but not really, with a twist. The game is about the card decks have zombie cards, shotgun and cure. Zombie cards spread to the healthy ones. Once you have a zombie card, you get infected and you can spread it to the other person. The shotgun may kill zombies, but only zombies, and even if they don't use zombie card, they can be killed by shotgun. And there's also a cure that, well, cures people from being a zombie. The whole idea is nice on paper, but it's probably the only game that has some sort of tension attached to it with this entire season. However, you quickly realize that there is no point of these cards even existing in this game. There is a rule that if you run out of cards, you just simply lose and you are dead. So, however, nobody ever runs out of cards. Nobody dies this way, not even once. Everyone is just trying to stay away from the zombies, despite of the fact that being a zombie does not make you lose. In fact, if there's going to be more zombies than humans, the humans are going to lose and they are going to die. So the easiest way to end the game with the least amount of casualties would be to infect everyone to be a zombie. And there is also a vaccine card that never gets shown in the show. Nobody has it, and they didn't use it even once, so why even introduce it? Our group of clowns we follow run around, beat the shit out of each other to stay human, which every human being would know that this is a losing position. And those are the players who survived the world before, by the way. They've been to this world. Those are returning players. This is basically the Hunger Games catching fire situation. And before someone is going to say that they don't have memories of their last being in this world, no, they start actually getting those memories back as they go. So they, at this point, most of them have the memories come back. Arisu reveals at the end that he is in fact a zombie from the start, and he infects all of his friends to survive the game. There is one person in the group that died basically, but nobody even missed him because he was like just meat puppet to kill off in the show in one of the games as sacrifice. He has no personality. He has no character to himself. So everyone who joined our group of these mentally challenged heroes during this game is dead, except Ray. Ray is the only one who joined, and after that game, turns out that she's just another blank slate with no personality attached to her, and she has no arc, and she's useless whatsoever. Now we are going to the another game. But wait, there is a perspective switch. So, because when we were watching another stale and motionless game, there was an action-packed game with Usagi on her side of things that is shown to us without any explanation, just maybe for a minute or two, and well, then we just follow Usagi and the professor for the next game. So we just got presented something that would be great to watch because they blue-balled us, showing us this, and decided, oh, we are going to present you with another stale game. So yes, they are just traveling to the next game, and you guessed it, this is the same game that Arisu is going to participate in, but they are on a different team, but it has no influence on anything because this is not a team competition, this is just another queue. So we got one action-packed minute of the flashy fun game, and now we have another stale game with no rules that makes no sense. You see, you have train with 8 cars, and each car is going to be filled by gas, poison or oxygen, and you have to choose if you put your mask on and use your oxygen cartridges that you have 5, but there's going to be 4 carts that are going to be filled with poison. If you use 2 cartridges badly, you can just stop participating and just die because you are going to die anyway. There's no indication whatsoever to suggest which cart is going to be the one that you should wear a mask or not. There is no riddles, there is no nothing, there's no indicators. This is just a guessing game that has no rules, and if you guess wrong, you're dead. So I know guessing games are also games, but usually those are against like other players with, like, for an example, numbers. When Shichiyo in the second season was playing against the king, and there was this acid above their heads, and if they lost it was melting them. There was like a poker face attached to it and some sort of deduction skills that Shichiya actually displayed in a penultimate round of that game. In here, it's just put mask or not put mask, and if 2 times wrong, you dead. So absolute dogshit competition that makes no sense and is not fair to the players. And at one point I thought we are saved because there is a train guy, train nerd on the train, by the way, who starts saying that so there is no room for a gas tanks on the roof on certain cars. So just to find out that the nerd guy mixed up the trains, and his reasoning and his shit that he was saying anyways had no logic behind it, because he was saying that if there is no pantograph on the car, that he believed that the cart is going to be the one that is going to be poisoned, and if there is a pantograph, that means there is no room for the gas tanks, so they should be safe. But the poison is not the only gas that comes in the gas tanks that would have to be stored somewhere, like for an example on the roof. Why? Because there's also another gas that is going to be used, and oxygen that also has to be in the gas tanks, and the theory was shit from the start. So it doesn't even matter that he was wrong. The whole theory on the beginning was actually stupid, and nobody pinpointed that out of the entire group of geniuses. So they all ran out of the cartridges, by the way, so before the end. So like miraculously, there is 2 trains lining up because the other team from the other queue, not the one that Arisu is on, died. They all died at the end, at the last car. So they decided to jump from one train to the another, and it is actually a really nice sequence, but the fact that there is no penalty for cheating like this is kinda unlike, at least in Borderland. Through like it feels like through this 3 years that we waited, they completely forgot that the games, even if they are brain dead, these games should follow some rules. Alright. There is one rule. There is one rule in the game, that you cannot use the cartridges of the other person, and that was also never displayed. Nobody tried it, so why do you even mention it? Usagi, after all, sees Arisu in another queue on the train, so she almost loses her arm because she wants to touch him, and I was like, okay, you complete lunatics, you're going to touch tips from train to train, and what is going to accomplish? Nothing. And Arisu train crashes because he accelerated it instead of pushing the brake, so he has to be taken care of by the guy, Tetsu, who stitches him because like he is a ultimate junkie. So he said that he had to learn how to do these things because if he's going to move to the hospital, he's going to end up in prison. But yet again, another game, and we followed Usagi with the group of people that we completely don't know anything about, and we don't care about them, and they have no personality, and they are even blanker slates than the previous team. So it was funny when at one point they were jumping from train to train, and they genuinely just slammed in on the pillar and got so mushed. and I just started laughing. And I shouldn't laugh watching this show, but ultimately I don't care, and it was comical because I don't know anything about these people. Why should I care? So after that, the game is clear. So guess what? Usagi doesn't give a shit about Arisu that she wanted to touch tips with so much, so doesn't even search for him. She stays with a creepy Ryuji that starts having this like weird creepy look to him that if he wasn't on a wheelchair, God knows what the fuck he would do to her. So all of a sudden it seems like he is jealous, and he acts like he's in love with Usagi, but at the same time she sees her as a replacement for him, for his student that he did research on death with, and she died and never woke up. So like this shit comes out of nowhere, but he doesn't love her like in a normal way. He wants her to die together with her. So like I was watching this and I was asking myself like, what the actual fuck is going on? Then we get to the penultimate game, which again is just two separate perspectives, two separate games, so we jump back and forth, and the one is Usagi playing bingo on the tower, which is a game that is incredibly boring. There is no tension. It feels like everyone just stays in the same position for the majority of the time, and Usagi and Ryuji both are tied with a rope, so Ryuji can't even participate because like he cannot move his legs, so she has to tie him to herself, and they are just moving up the ladder. They are climbing the ladder, and yeah, other people just die being slammed by the balls that fall like periodically from the top, and we don't give a shit about anyone who dies because we don't know anyone on Usagi's team. So we spend even less time with them than with Arisu team, so even worse than watching Arisu's plays. So at one point there is this idiotic scene of Usagi trying to like help this one little girl that is like clinching into this rail, and she's like scared, so Usagi goes in because she doesn't want her to be killed by the falling balls. So the problem is that she probably wouldn't die if Usagi just left her and did what she was supposed to do, but she just pulls her away from the rail, and she gets scared of the balls that are now completely closer to her because the balls were nowhere near her. She was just afraid, and she just falls down. So few seconds later Usagi climbs the top of the tower because they already have a bingo. So you have to press the free button on the top of the tower. So if she just left this poor girl alone, she would actually survive, but because of Usagi, she's dead. Meanwhile, on the Arisu's team, it's something more entertaining of a game. Kicking the can, that is a pipe bomb, and there's 10 cans, and each team has to bring the can back and press it, and the bomb goes back under, and this person is safe and moves to the elevator. So the whole idea of kicking the can is great. However, it gets ruined in the first few seconds because when the can falls, it rockets up and flies around until it slams into some room, and that's basically it, and they have to just go in and get the pipe bomb, and within 60 seconds they have to go and score the touchdown. What is the point of kicking off then? The whole game is just like, yeah, they kick off the can, they run around, beat each other, kick each other, and get blown up. There are some clever scenes in this one. For an example, they pretend that thermos is a bomb, so the enemies get actually taken away from the pipe bomb, and the chick can actually go closer to the touchdown place. A few people die because the bombs explode. For an example, the girl, that the only recognizable trait is that the fact that she is limping because she had her like pierced with an arrow in the first game, and she's slower, so she, for an example, dies on the stairs because she's fighting with a dude over the pipe bomb. Her friend, who pretended to be her sister, yeah, I also thought this is kind of weird as well. She fights for the pipe bomb like mad, and she's just a meat puppet to kill in one of the games again. Like, she had no personality. I can't even remember her speaking in the show outside of the one scene when she talked with the one that died before her. So the characters in the show are incredibly stupid because the pipe bomb is 60 seconds, but if you pass it to the other person, it is going to reset the timer no matter how many seconds it is, but it's going to reset to 5 seconds less. So for an example, you pass it to someone, it's going to be 55, next 50, etc. So the girl fights like 3 people for the pipe bomb. They pass it around like complete clowns, and the voice say 15 seconds, and they are on the 2nd floor. So instead of just like throwing away the pipe bomb and maybe the stupidest enemy is going to grab it and die, they just all fight for this bomb to the last second second and they get blown up, and I'm like, the 4 people died for this bomb, and the voice said 15 seconds. There's no way you can actually get this bomb down within the 15 seconds. You can't throw it down because the bomb is going to explode if it actually slams from this height, and it's shown in the show previously. So like, I don't know, like complete clowns, complete not thinking characters that already survived the games. These people are not the fresh. They act like they are just new to this world, but they are not. And at this point, I was like out of words because like I felt like I'm watching Prometheus again. So of course, Arisu is going to survive. We all know this. And the last one to stay is this mafia guy, Yakuza guy maybe. I think he was a Yakuza. And he's like 1 versus 6 or 7 enemies. And of course, he dies and they all fight for this bomb and nobody scores the touchdown and they all die in a big explosion. And it was done as we should admire him or feel sorry for him. The dude helped Arisu get first out before him because Arisu was the reason he lived and Arisu was already screwed up from the train accident. So his most notable actions outside of that were just being a complete piece of shit, beating up people for being on a zombie team. And we also got like a flashback randomly that I think supposedly killed his own brother, I guess, for the gang mafia, whatever, but we never elaborate on that shit and it actually adds nothing. And we see him in this last seconds of his life take off his shirt and it feels like we should, I don't know, admire him and feel, wow, he has cool tattoos. No, we should be in awe of him. No, surprisingly, like everyone who also managed to score the can in this game was from Arisu's team. So nobody from the enemy team, not even a single fucking person managed to score one can. Everyone who was lucky was from the Arisu team, and they didn't even like try to create interesting dynamic in the show, having like 1 or 2 survivors from the enemy team. It would be nice, maybe did a little bit of a mix-up of the group and maybe some disagreements or new friendship. No, they just went for the lowest hanging bar and they just saved everyone with the most familiar faces. This is like the most Disney shit I've seen in a while. After that game, we get to the reveal that Banda wants Ryuji to actually shoot Usagi, and in his mind, in his weird twisted logic, if Ryuji is going to shoot Usagi, Arisu is going to stay in Borderland because he's going to be so devastated that he's going to stay in Borderland forever and he's going to be playing games with him. Really makes no sense, and I don't really know what made them think that this would be happening, but sure, there's no logic behind Banda's reasoning, and the whole like idea for him bringing these players back to the world of Borderland is that he is bored and he wants to have skilled players as citizens so he can play games with. He is also in charge of this damn place, and I'm like, of course he became a citizen and he was here for some time, but if you remember, the kings in the season 2 were also citizens. Those were people who accepted the citizenship. So, but they had no powers. They were just pawns that still had to play the games. Here, it feels like the whole thing completely went out of the window. They completely forgot about the premise and the fact that like the Banda doesn't even participate in any single game and he is just ruling this shithole, and it breaks completely the entire logic of the show that it had established in the previous seasons. And before you say, oh, he's the Joker guy, no, let me speed this up. No, he isn't. So like we are actually explicitly told that he is not a Joker. He is not in charge of this place and he is nobody. So the last game starts going through the rooms. Yes, this is the last game. Rolling the dice, and the number on the dice tells you how many people can pass through each color door. So obviously they roll and go together, but there is a catch. They're being presented the future that looks like an AI videos on the walls, and I guess that's like this distortion effect is like something that they were going for, and I will not accuse them or say that this is AI, but it looks like an early AI videos. They are told that the future they choose on these walls is going to be their future that is going to be. So these goddamn retards are going through the doors that show them all the happy endings they wish for, because it feels like they just arrived in Borderlands today and this is the first time they see the game. What the fuck are you doing? So they are going through the doors following these memories that are yet to be, and they get to -8 point room or -4 point room and they die, always alone. Each player has like 15 points, so if you lose all the points, you're cooked. So, however, happily enough, it never happened that two people would be in the same room and one had to sacrifice themselves for the second person. Like, for an example, there's a brother and sister in the game, and no, like, brother sacrificing himself, taking away his points so his sister may survive. No, they all die alone with this like dramatic scene of being like shown this like memory that they would love to see, and the color explodes. And I'm like, this is so shit, and we don't care about these people. So in this game, the brother of the sister dies, that we don't give a fuck about because he's from Usagi's team, and Tetsu, the junkie guy, he followed the memories, but he has more of a reasoning because he was actually kind of relapsing, and he was a junkie that wanted to get out but he couldn't. So like in his instance, I would say that it kinda is explainable, because for him that wasn't only the trauma, for him it was actively losing his mind right now in this very instance. But the other people, no, the other people are not explainable. And the entire game is like the most fucking boring game they could have thought of, and this is the last game of the season. It's spread across entire one episode that is 1 hour and 17 minutes long, and the 20 minutes of like a next episode, it drags, it is uninteresting, it is boring, and I just wanted this shit to end. Of course, as Usagi is pregnante, she counts as two people, so if there is one on the door, she can't pass. Getting the child to participate in the games like Squid Game Season 3, the season of the show that completely ruined it. This is your fucking inspiration. Banda inviting people to the game, Kid being in the games, and there is also one more that we get to it. So as they are about to finish, Arisu chooses to stay behind and leave so the others can live and go back to the world. He basically chooses to die for others, and the game says that he is the winner. So like when Ryuji refuses to shoot Usagi, Banda destroys the whole city with a tsunami, and everything falls apart, everything is crashing down. Arisu turns into like a special superhero engineer, smashes the wall, tears it apart, opens the door by pulling the arm inside the wall. I mean, strong motherfucker, gotta admit. Or maybe just a shitty door, I don't know. He saved players outside, goes into the water to save Usagi. The entire time, the camera is a jumbled mess. You can see shit, it's really close to their faces, probably because they hide CGI that way. And at one point, Arisu actually falls under the water and he is struggling to get out. He can't breathe. And we are shown that Banda goes to the real world and starts choking him, but Anne sees him, and he is surprised that Anne can see him. Excuse me, but from what I understand, with the logic that we are given in this season, which is complete and utter bullshit, that the fact that he can go to the real world from the Borderland is just stupid, and it's not explained how. Nobody could ever do this, and it basically makes no sense. Like, this is like a middle ground between life and death, so like you can just leave, you don't have body, but you can strangle someone. Never mind. However, he's surprised that Anne can see him. The people who survived Borderland can see him, and he should know that Anne survived Borderland because she's also from the time when he was even in the games, and he supposedly has knowledge about all of the contestants that he chooses to recruit. So, well, what? And as Arisu is getting out of the water, Banda wants to shoot him and gets lasered from the sky because it appears that he's not in charge in this place, and the guy who is supposedly in charge of this place appears, and he stops the time, and he tells Arisu Arisu that he's not in charge of this place. And he's just a guy who ended up as a citizen and just refuses to die. But he has the ultimate power of this place. So he is in charge. He deals the cards to Arisu, makes him choose the card from the two. And if he picks the Joker card, that's basically for the guy to decide the Arisu's fate. And if not, the Arisu can choose. And both cards appear to be a Joker. So then the guy is saying that jumbled mess about cards being like in relation to the number of days in the single year. And if you add one more Joker to the deck, it's going to be a leap year. Bunch of nothing that is being said in this conversation, to be honest. And nothing really matters because the dude says that because of the coincidence of them Arisu getting two Jokers, Arisu can now choose his own fate. And I rolled my eyes. So he also tells him that there's going to be a lot of people in Borderland because there's going to be a big event in the real world. So obviously Arisu, after being given a choice, decides that he wants to live. So he sees Usagi falling into the world of death, so he jumps into the water to save her, and Ryuji drags Usagi to the world of the death, and he says that he wants her to die with him together, and she starts screaming, and it becomes like a screaming fest because it's like Arisu, Usagi, Arisu, Usagi, Arisu. And I genuinely, watching this, I got flashbacks from Naruto because it was like all Sakura lines in that anime. Naruto, Sasuke. So at this point I started laughing, and I was not immersed in the show. I was laughing my ass off. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, Ryuji decides to take Usagi back to Arisu, swimming against the current in the middle of the whirlpool that drags in the whole fucking buildings, by the way. And if you don't remember, his legs don't work. He's on a wheelchair, so he is swimming by only using his hands. And he says that they need to be together, and he lets go and goes down to the world of death. And Usagi is still screaming after him, Ryuji! And I'm like, this motherfucker just told you that he wants you to die with him, and you are screaming after him and feel sorry that he's going to fucking die? Who the fuck wrote this piece of shit? Of course they get out of the Borderland and they wake up. Arisu is interviewing like characters that you actually liked from the seasons 1 and 2, and the show ends on the series of earthquakes that the last scene is in United States that cringely shows us mysterious character, the waitress named Alice. What the fuck? So we have another Squid Game borrowed shit from the ending. Instead of just ending with our characters that we watched, we are ending in the United fucking States because we have to set up that something is going to be happening to milk the franchise even more as long as you are going to keep watching this shit. I am extremely pissed after watching this season because Alice in Borderland was not a perfect show. It absolutely had its own problems. However, it was one of my favorite two shows on Netflix. This one and Wednesday, and they Netflixed it. And I'm sick and tired scrolling through like comment sections of the videos and Reddits and forums and reviews on sites like IMDb, for an example, and I see plenty of people defend this shit because we could have had nothing. I'm just glad we got third season, or genuinely just saying something that was not a thing in the show. And well, you watched it? Usagi well damn known that she is going back to the Borderlands. What the fuck are you even talking about? She went to the seaside hotel that they were in the first season at, and she got flashbacks and regained the memory from the Borderland. So she went to the Borderland willingly, understanding where she's going and why. It feels like a bunch of motherfuckers just want to Stockholm syndrome themselves into liking the show. That makes no sense. They create their own canon in their own head and misconstrue what the show is actually presenting to them to just justify them liking it. Well, you can like it even if it is bad. Just admit that you're liking something that makes no sense, instead of blatantly lying about what is happening in the show that you supposedly watched. And now creator of the show says that he's open for doing season 4 or a spin-off series, and how he would love to put Arisu and Usagi's kid in the Borderlands. You know what, sir? Fuck you.